In our last lesson, we looked at hypertext links like this one here, which are absolute links showing a complete URL. And we also learned about the target attribute, which can open a link in a blank page. In this lesson, we're going to look at these relative links, like these. These relative links are relative to the location of the current document. In this case, our current document is loaded here at bw.org/miscellaneous-links hyperlinks.html. So a relative link like this one, which just says here.html, will come up in the same directory. The browser, when it looks for that link, will look in the current directory. It'll look at this part of the URL, and it'll remove this part of the URL and attach the relative URL to the end of the current directory part of the URL of the current page. So in other words, when we click on this link here, this is just a link to here.html, and I've put the text of the links right next to them so that we can see them on the browser page as well. When I click on the link for here.html, the browser will look in the current directory and create a URL using this part all the way up to the last slash and the new file name. So watch the status bar down here at the bottom of the browser when I roll my cursor over this link, and notice that it has the URL all constructed right there. All the browsers I've ever seen do this. That allows you to see how the URL is being constructed. In this case, it's just like we expected, bw.org/misc/links/here.html in place of hyperlinks.html. So when I click on that, you'll see it comes up right there with a little page that I created that just links back to the first page. And there's the URL of where we ended up. And when I click on this, it'll take us right back to that other page. Notice now that this link has become magenta, like the others. Purple, magenta, chartreuse. No, chartreuse is greenish, isn't it? I don't know what color you want to call it. It's purplish. Now here is a relative link that's in a different subdirectory. Let's look at it in the editor just to see how it's exactly like that. Subdir/there.html. Now I know some of you call them folders. In the Mac world they're called folders, and even in the PC world these days they're called folders. In the internet world they're still called directories. And so subdir or subdirectory and there.html. And when we put our cursor over the link, you see that starting at the links part, starting after the directory or current directory, it attaches that new relative link starting here. Can't get that thing to highlight correctly. Starting here. And it replaces that with subdir/there. So you have a longer URL that includes links and then subdir and then there.html. And notice that our link back is now also in magenta because we've been there already. There's the subdir one. Now our next link is a special case of a directory called .. And this is an old Unixism, and because the World Wide Web was originally developed under Unix, the .. is used to mean go up a directory, and then else.html is somewhere else. And so when we look at that in the browser, the somewhere else, and notice that down in the status bar there, it's taken out the links directory altogether because we went up a level. Up a level is the same as back a level. And so when we click on that, watch our URL up here in the location bar, and you see it took out that links directory and just put us right back in the directory above it. And link back to the first page, and there's that one. And finally, our last link is a link not to an HTML page at all, but to an image, a GIF. And I know many of you say GIF, and that's okay. We're tolerant here at lynda.com, but I say GIF because I've been saying GIF for many, many years, and so I continue to say GIF. And I think either way is understandable. In any event, it's in the images subdirectory, and it's url.gif, and it's actually a useful little picture. It's a picture of how a URL is constructed that I made for the Creative HTML book, and it shows the different parts of the URL, some of which you've never seen, some of which you'll never see. And we'll talk about the fragments in our next lesson. In any event, this is what a URL looks like, and you see we're in the images subdirectory there, and we got there via that link, which is now also magenta like the rest of them. So that's pretty much it for links. That's how they work. There is one last bit about links that I'd like to talk about, and we'll do that in the next lesson, and that's the base element, to allow you to use a different base than your current directory for your links, for your relative links. So we'll talk about that in our next little lesson.